Welcome to my channel, Acheno Ogola the lawyer, Karibuni Sana, and today I have my teacher. She was my lecturer in professional ethics, yes, and she's the ATP director, assistant director here at KSL, and we're going to be having a talk on legal education in Kenya. If you enjoy the video, like, share, and subscribe. So thank you so much, Madam Konuche, for sparing time. I know you're a very busy advocate and you wear many hats.
Yes.
And thank you for sparing time. So before we begin this conversation, I'd like you to introduce yourself more to my viewers.
Okay, thank you, Atieno, and thank you for having me. Thank you for reaching out. I think this is a conversation that was long overdue, the conversation on legal education. So my name is Anna Konuche. Currently, I hold the position of Assistant Director of the Advocates Training Program at the Kenya School of Law. That means I head the Department of the Advocates Training Program. And I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya with over 16 years post-admission experience. And I've had my experience in the legal field spans from private practice, which I did for about 2 years. I also worked for the Attorney General for about a year. Then I pursued my master's at the University of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, USA, in the year 2007, 2008. And when I came back now is when I began my journey in academia. And I started off as a tutorial fellow at the Kenyatta University School of Law. Then moved, about 1 year later, I moved to Moi University School of Law. Because was my alma mater, and I just needed to give back where I grew up. So I taught in Moi University for close to 7 years before I moved back to Nairobi. Did a brief stint as a corporation secretary before now I joined Kenya School of Law in 2017 as assistant director in charge of the Advocates Training Program. Other than that, I also sit at the Advocates Disciplinary Tribunal as an elected member since 2018.
Wow. Thank you for that elaborate introduction. Now, you're going to delve straight into the discussion. And now, we're going to talk about your experience as a lecturer and teaching law at the Kenya School of Law and at Kenya, the various universities that you taught. What could you say has been your experience as a lecturer? Mm-hmm.
Okay, as a lecturer, my experience, I would say I enjoyed. When I joined in 2008, I was straight from master's program. So, no one really prepares you for the experience in a classroom. And for me, I just went in with a lot of enthusiasm. I enjoyed my classes. I prepared for them. I really looked forward to them. And I really sought feedback from my students on how the classes were going. But generally, I enjoyed teaching at the undergraduate program, both at Kenyatta University and at Moi University. I taught mainly foundational courses, both institutions. That is to say, the foundational courses of law, the criminal law. I taught family law. I taught civil procedure. I taught professional ethics. I taught property. Those things that a lawyer must know if they want to call themselves a lawyer. And for me, it was. It was a challenge and a good experience. Now, what I also learned later now after I left Moi University is that you never quite understand the impact you have on your students until after you have left the institution. Is when now you walk out on the streets and you meet your students and they're excited to see you and you're like, you actually get surprised that they remember you, they appreciate the role you played in their life. And that is when now it dawned on me that, it's actually important to have a good relationship with your students. So that is the realization that came to me after I left Moi University. The Kenya School of Law is a different ballgame altogether because we are dealing with the adults who've been through the law program, that is an undergraduate law program. So these are mature students, so to speak, and they are already knowledgeable in law. They understand, they are exposed. So, as a teacher, your job is actually harder than at the undergraduate, where you are wowing them with a lot of explanations that they've never encountered. So, I would say KSL is a different ball game, not necessarily tougher, but a different ball game. And as a lecturer, you actually get challenged more because you every day you walk out of class, you've learned something that you didn't know when you walked in there. And then the other thing is that what you end up doing as a teacher in the Kenya School of Law is more or less facilitating discussions with the class because everyone comes in with different ideas, different perspective of principles, of issues. So you want to be sort of facilitate that discussion so that these that sharing of ideas that is going round and you're not the only one who is the source of information. I think that is key and that is important. The other thing about the school, of course, is that we offer professional legal training as opposed to the theoretical aspect at the undergraduate. At the school, we are now supposed to expose the students to more practical approaches to the law and prepare them to the market. So that has been my experience in terms of being a lecturer of law. Yeah.
Okay, then now we are going to talk about the various legislations that govern the institution of Kenya School of Law. Yeah.
Okay, I would say legal education is governed by a couple of statutes, and I would want to start with the principal ones. The first one being, of course, the Legal Education Act number 27 of 2012. The Legal Education Act, I think the key thing that needs to be brought out is it establishes the Council of Legal Education. The Council of Legal Education is the regulator and the examiner. It's both a regulator and examiner in that it regulates legal education generally, accredits institutions to offer law, ensures that institutions are well equipped to offer legal education. Then, as an examiner, of course, it examines the advocates training program that is offered at the school. Other than that, if you look at the Legal Education Act and the regulations, provides for what maybe a legal education provider needs to meet for it to be licensed to offer law. Then, of course, it lists down the courses, the mandatory courses that must be done, undertaken by a student, right from the diploma level. If it's a student undertaking diploma in law, the courses that are mandatory at that stage or that level. Then we have those that are mandatory and the undergraduate level, they are listed as 16. Then the units to be studied at the Kenya School of Law are also listed in the Act. So basically, it's just talking about regulation of legal education, accreditation, examination of the advocates training program. Then we have the Kenya School of Law Act. The Kenya School of Law Act, of course, establishes the school and gives the mandate of the school, which includes now advocates training program, among others. You will be surprised there are actually other mandates. I know the school is known mainly for ATP, but there is a lot more that the school does, and it's found under Section 4 of the Act. Then, of course, governance structure of the school. Then the requirements one must meet to join the advocates training program, and the courses that are studied here. Yeah, generally the disciplinary mechanisms under the regulations and all that. So that's what the Kenya School of Law Act provides for. Then we have the Advocates Act under Section 13 gives the academic qualifications that one must have to become an advocate of the High Court. As you know, the Advocates Act governs conduct of advocates, basically those who've been admitted to the bar, right from the process of requirements to petitioning to applying for a practicing certificate, all that. So the Advocates Act governs that. So in a small aspect, then it deals with legal education as well. Then, of course, we have the Universities Act, which governs the universities that also offer legal education. Yeah.
Thank you for that elaborate explanation. Now, you can talk about now what necessitated the creation of the Kenya School of Law, considering that you yourself did not go through the Kenya School of Law.
Okay. Yeah. So, from a historical perspective, if we look at it historically, the school has existed from, I think, the 60s, if I'm not wrong, and it has always trained students. But at some point, there was an exemption, what I would call the word has disappeared. Okay, Salam is that again. You'll cut that bit off. The word disappeared. I'm sorry. Yeah. So if we look at it historically, the school has existed for a very long time, but there was a period in time when there was blanket exemption for students who studied law within the country, within Kenya. So I, for instance, am an example of someone who was exempted from studying at the Kenya School of Law. So what would happen is we would finish the LLB at fourth year and then immediately go into pupillage for 1 year, and then you get admitted to the bar, and that's what happened to us. So that is from the historical perspectives. And then in 2000, I think 2005 or 2006, there was a task force that was established when the Honorable Kiraitu Murungu was minister in charge of legal affairs or legal and constitutional affairs. And the ministerial task force was tasked with looking into the policy and legal framework of legal education in Kenya. And it was chaired by the good Professor Githu Muigai, former Attorney General. And one of the recommendations was this introduction of bar examinations, and if you read the report, it says that from interviewing members of the public and members of the profession, it was felt that there was need to improve the standards of the legal profession in the eyes of the public, in the eyes of the government, and that's why they thought that introduction of pre-bar and the Kenya School of Law and making it mandatory for everyone would improve those standards. Yeah. And that is how now, which led eventually to the passing of the KSL Act 26 of 2012, as well as the Legal Education Act 27 of 2012. Previously, of course, before the passing of those two acts, KSL and legal education were a fused organ, and they were under one roof, and they were performing different organs, but still as one organ, different roles, but as one organ. But from my own perspective, if you look at the legal education worldwide, you'll discover that most jurisdictions have sort of a bar examination that is mandatory for all who wish to become advocates. If you look at America, for instance, law is a second degree. It's not a first degree. If you look at other institutions, even if law is not a second degree, they will always have a law school which requires those joining the profession to do a bar exam. So I think it was also time for us as a country to have that kind of introduction to make sure that we are at par with the rest of the world. So if we didn't take the route of having law as a second degree, then we take this route of introduction of a bar examination that is mandatory for all, so that just to make sure that we are at par with other jurisdictions in the world. Yeah.
Now, if we talk about the cost of legal education in Kenya, what would you say is your opinion on that?
Okay, the cost of legal education in Kenya. That's an interesting one, and I've been bombarded with that. Yes, from my own personal opinion, the cost of legal education is it's fair. Having studied, for instance, my master's in the US, out there, education is very expensive. College education is very expensive. Here, if you come here and you look at the universities, of course, those who are government sponsored, I mean, what they pay is minimum and very affordable. For those who go through the other program, the privately sponsored program in public institutions, or who go through the private universities, if you look at what they pay as fees for one academic year, it's upwards of 150,000. If you come to the School of Law, we charge 145 for 9 months, which is comparable, 8 months, 9 months. But I know that the school, because it's compulsory, then it tends to be a burden for those who probably benefited from government sponsorship at the undergraduate level. So that is why it looks expensive, because now it's mandatory, and now there's now, how do I put it, government intervention at this point, at this juncture. But what we are lucky now is that at least the school has signed an MOU with HELB, and beginning next academic year, we will have
Students
yes,
seeking loans,
yes,
to
and
cater for
obtaining yes to pay for their tuition fees, which would help relieve a lot of problems because it's really a burden. I know it's a burden for most of them. As we look for probably long-term solutions that will take care of this, because we are a third world country and the economy is doing badly, and most people come from very poor backgrounds. So that's why it looks like it's really yeah it's yeah.
But I thank God that at least that's a progressive step that now loans are available.
Yes, and also CLE, by the way, also is offering loans for the exam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they started offering it last year.
Okay.
And I think then at that time it had not been publicized as much, but this year I believe with the publication and ensuring everyone knows about it, there'll be more who will be able to benefit. So it gives. Of course, it's a loan. I know you'll have to pay it back, but at the point you're sitting an examination or preparing for it, you don't have to worry at the back of your mind, where am I going to get money to actually pay for my examination. Yeah.
That's a progressive step. Then, as you've been talking about the legal education in Kenya, does it match up with other Commonwealth jurisdictions around the world?
Yes, I believe our legal education is up to, what is the word? Yes, up to par. Our graduates of Kenyan law schools, of Kenya School of Law, actually are able to get jobs all over the world. And I think that's enough testimony that we are up to par. We actually match what the world has to offer. We have our students and former students working in the UN, working in international organizations, working in Geneva, the ICC, in other institutions, in other, world over. So I think, yeah, we are good. We are good, yeah. Yes.
Okay, now that you said you're good, maybe now we could talk about the pass rates. Yeah, in Kenya School of Law. I know there was an outcry last year, but I think the pass rate improved, right?
Yes. Yeah, your group actually, there was a big marked
Yeah,
improvement.
but now what can people actually, or students coming in, or current students do to improve their pass rates?
Okay, I think I'm just going to use the cliche, what has been said over and over and over in the world, that there's no shortcut to anything. There's no known shortcut. It's just sheer hard work. And a student joining the school should be ready for hard work. 9 months of pure grinding, and it begins the first day you report. You cannot postpone and say that maybe I'll start reading in March or in third term or in second term. No, that is where most of them go wrong. And there are testimonies of those who actually went at it from word go, and they'll tell you that the reward is normally a nine piece, because you're up to it. You're reading daily, you're attending all your classes, you're joining discussion groups, so you're up to date, up to par. You're reading ahead. You're actively seeking out knowledge. You're participating in your farm discussions. That is the only way to success that I understand. And of course, keeping positive mind and being prepared, and participating in class, ensuring, you're what do I say? You are
Proactive.
proactive, and you're alert. Yeah, so that you don't come to class and you're on your phone or you're dozing off. And well, the school also has done something commendable. Let me just say commendable. We've introduced the evening classes. So, because we realize there's a large chunk of students that actually work full time. So, asking them to drop their jobs so that they can attend Kenya School of Law full time now was asking too much, and most of them would either defer or they come and fall behind and all that. So, we now have an evening program that runs Monday to Friday after 6 to around 8 when we had the physical classes. With the e-learning, it runs from 5 to 7 p.m. Then on Saturday, the whole of Saturday. So you can see someone who works full time can now work from 8 to 5 and then go to class. So there's no excuse anymore not to attend class. So you should actually benefit more, and more make sure that you don't miss out on classes. Yeah.
I wish I was I was a beneficiary.
You can still come back and start afresh.
No, thank God I passed.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe now we could talk about what are some of the areas that you feel maybe KSL or universities need to improve on in order to improve the quality of legal education in Kenya, because I think you've had some outcry from seniors that the caliber of lawyers, or let me not say all, but some young lawyers do not match the expectation of the profession.
Okay. Now, let me start by saying the legal profession is just like any other society. You will expect the very best. You will expect the average, that's where the majority falls, and you'll expect the very bad. So I don't think it's very different from, a reflection of how the society is. But generally, I think just to up our game in the legal education sector, number one, I believe, is investment in research. When I was at the university, my experience was that there was very little that was invested in research. You'll find the universities I don't know if they still do that, but they'll want to go all out, establishing satellite campuses, and with very minimal investment in research. So I think to build the capacity of staff and also students, because they can't participate in research and writing, we need to invest more as a country in research. And then we need to pay our lecturers very well, so that they don't need to feel that they need to go out there to make money to make ends meet, because you'll find a lecturer is full time, but they are doing a lot of other things to make ends meet. So I think the government needs to invest in the lecturers, and they need to invest in research. That is one. Number two, I think we need to innovate. If there's something that Corona has taught us, this pandemic, is that we need to innovate as a society, not just legal education, not legal sector, everywhere. We need to innovate. Technology is the way to go. How are we going to harness technology as a legal education sector to ensure that going forward, we are improving our products, we are improving our graduates, we are improving the quality of our practice. If you look also at the world over, there's a mass movement sort of towards alternative dispute resolution. I think as a country, if I'm not wrong, as a profession, we are stuck at the traditional system of solving disputes of takupeleka kotini. So nikupelekana tu kotini. And I think there is a more cost-effective, less acrimonious route, mediation, arbitration, all those alternatives. And the Constitution actually foresaw that, and it provides for the alternative dispute resolution. Commercial disputes now, international commercial disputes, how are they sorted? It's arbitration, yeah. So even as a school, I think it is time we had a discussion and probably reviewed what we offer here, because we are really focused on the traditional system of solving disputes. We are teaching the procedures, civil, civil, criminal, those things that are court-related, and we are yet to introduce the ADR aspect. So I think this is something that's a way to go in the future. And then finally, we need to tear down the physical boundaries that exist among countries. With technology, we are becoming a global village. We are having law firms, having branches even outside the country. And I think it's time we moved away from that, the brick and mortar or kind of physical boundaries we've created for ourselves. And as law schools now, it's time to go out and seek out other law schools. Even as we review our curriculums, even as we recruit lecturers, can we reach out across borders? Across Africa, across the oceans, So I think globalization and benchmarking is another way that we can do to improve our legal education.
For sure, that will create a rich experience. If you have lecturers from all over the world, it will actually improve the quality of legal education.
Exactly. On top of opening opportunities, you could get someone here and take away 10 lawyers and go and employ them in Australia or somewhere. So
sure.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe now we could talk about the achievements of KSL. What are maybe some of the general achievements, maybe now during your tenure as the Assistant ATP Director? What could you say are the milestones of KSL?
Okay, as the milestones of KSL, I've talked about the evening program. I think that was something that had not been thought about, for the longest time ever. So I think that was a shocker even. So it's a good thing now. At least we cater for the needs of all types of students. And then we are on the e-learning train. Yeah, which is a good thing because when Corona hit, I mean, we stayed home for about 3 months and you're scratching your head and you're thinking, if this thing goes on like 2 years, what is going to happen to us? So we're very fast to innovate, did a pilot program, and then immediately thereafter now started the program, which has been running. We are now finished term 2. And if the figures continue up, then we may just actually finish the year on e-learning. So I think those are the key highlights. But generally, I think the impact of the school is felt through the feedback that we get from those who have passed through the school. And the feedback I get from most of advocates is that they felt when they left the undergraduate program, they felt they were ready for the market until they came to the Kenya School of Law, and then they realized maybe I wasn't ready after all, because it exposes you to a different kind of training that you didn't encounter. The university can be easy. I know you just yes. And then when you come here, and then that's where the rubber meets the road. And I think that is real preparation for the market. So I think that would be my feedback on that.
I think also the help, as you talked about.
Oh yes, yeah, that's a big one. At least now it's a sad situation where we have students having to defer because they don't have fees. So I think that's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe now you could say your parting shot to your students, current, former, future.
Okay, my parting shot and my mantra is be creative. That's what I live by. Sometimes solutions are not, it's not something that you read and find. You have to think in your head and really find a solution to a problem you're facing or a situation you're facing. How is it you can solve, even if there is no immediate, something that you can see, visible solution. So be creative. And then for even current, former, those already in the market, also be creative and innovate. Let us not stick to the traditional practice of law. Can we find other areas to practice, other things to do? Because you're a lawyer, you're trained as a wholesome, you're whole as you are. So you can actually do anything with your degree. Even if you get a master's, you can do a lot more. So let's think not even outside the box. Let us think without a box. Yes. Yes, you're not limited. And it doesn't have to be law related. It could be something else. We have a small component of law, So let us be creative, let us be innovative. That's my parting shot. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It has been lovely having you here, and I'm just so grateful for this discussion.
Thank you too. I think I appreciate the opportunity. As I said, it's a discussion that has been long overdue. We don't discuss legal education quite a lot. We discuss the practice of law, we discuss other things, but very rarely do we sit down to talk about legal education and introspect and say, what can we do? What are the challenges? So I think this has been a good opportunity. We can continue talking. I appreciate inviting me. I'm actually honored. I'm honored to have been invited and to appear for this interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.